Hi again, and today I want to talk about a very important topic called cell differentiation. Cell differentiation, I think I'm going to just use the whiteboard today. How do you spell this? Cell differentiation. Now, what is that? Differentiation. That is the process of cells becoming more specialized. Okay, cells becoming more specialized, and cell differentiation is something that we can see in multicellular organisms. So today I'm not going to use my little pieces of paper, but I'm just going to write everything out. In multicellular, in basically like organisms that are made of many cells, in multicellular organisms. And cell differentiation is the process of cells becoming more specialized. Okay, let me explain this to you a little bit, and I'm going to start off by starting off here with a zygote. A zygote is a fertilized egg cell. So we all were once a zygote. I'm going to write this in here. And the zygote has a nucleus, of course, and there is some DNA in the zygote. And over the course of development, what we have is, of course, we have then a person, okay, made of many cells. So we start off with a single cell, and this is now the multicellular organisms that I just talked about. And there are many different cell types. It's clear. I mean, we've got blood cells, we've got skin cells, we've got nerve cells, muscle cells, the cells of the glands, brain cells. You get the idea. Huh? I said there's several hundred different cell types in a human body, and generally the cells all have the same DNA. Yeah, same DNA. Okay. And basically what happens here is that in this process, where we start off from the zygote, from the single cell, and then we have many cells over here, this is the process that we call cell differentiation. Okay? So this is basically the cells become more specialized, but they still have the same DNA. Differentiation. And now, of course, we have the big question, how can this be possible? Why is it that even though the cells have the same DNA, why are they different? And why do they look different? I mean, I don't know. A neuron, a nerve cell, okay, it looks like this. The dendrites, and there's a huge long axon. The nucleus is here. Yeah. You have then the myelin. Yeah, around. Oh, that's a very very bad drawing. Okay, it's the myelin around it. Yeah. Yeah, that's the cell body and the dendrites. Yeah, that's a nerve cell, a neuron. Okay. Other cells in the body, like the epithelial cells that you can find inside the cheek. This round thing here, that's the nucleus. Yeah, the epithelial cells, they look more like this, and there's a very flat, and there's a nucleus in here. Yeah, well, this kind of looks different. You know what? They have the same DNA. Yeah, how is this possible? Okay, and that's the answer I'm going to tell you right away. Is cell differentiation happens, this process, by simply expressing some of the DNA, but not others. So gene expression, that's a little bit of a technical term. In other words, even though that all of the cells have the same DNA, not all of the DNA is active. Yeah, so for example, the cells the red blood cells, they have, when they were made, the DNA that made the hemoglobin, which carries the oxygen, became active. But other parts of the DNA were not active. So different parts of the DNA are active in different types of cells. And this happens during the process of cell differentiation. That I'll give you an example. My skin, of course, also has the DNA on how to digest food, but it doesn't use that, so it's simply switched off. So while the DNA is present, it is not always used by all cells. And this is how differentiation happens. And this is why cells are different from each other, because some of the DNA is used and other DNA is not used or switched off. where some of the regions of the DNA is active, but other regions are not active. Or the third way of saying it is some of the DNA is expressed, basically is used, and the other regions are not expressed, are not used. Yeah. So this is kind of the whole process of cell differentiation, that basically the cells become, during the process of differentiation, they become more specialized. So, okay, I guess I have to use again, here it is, okay, something to wipe this off, yeah. And during the process of cell differentiation, cells become more specialized. I already mentioned this, but also they become more dependent on each other. So I'll give you an example again. Let's say I scratch myself. Okay, now a few hundred skin cells are now on here on the whiteboard. Yeah. You know what? They're not able to survive on their own. They're not able to survive on their own. Yeah. So you need, when cells are very specialized, they need other cells to keep them alive. So this is kind of a little bit the disadvantage. Yeah. So they're more specialized. They become better in what they're doing. Okay. This is called a division of labor. Division of labor. Okay, division of labor means that they split up the tasks. The skin cells are very good in covering the body and in preventing bacteria from entering, for example. The red blood cells are very good in carrying oxygen. They're all very specialized, and they're basically very good in what they're doing. Okay, they're good in what they do. Yeah, but at the same time, there is more dependency. I mean, we see this same thing also in a society. In our society, I mean, we've got teachers who are very good in teaching. We've got bus drivers that are very good in driving the bus. We've got lawyers, doctors. You get the idea, right? We've got farmers who are able to grow the food that we all need. So you see, we're all very specialized. We're all very good in that what we're doing, but there is also a greater dependency on each other. Okay, and we see the same thing in a multicellular organism. So where cells become more and more specialized by the process of cell differentiation, this by switching off some of the DNA and not others. So now what happens now is the following. It says, remember I talked about this one zygote, the fertilized egg cell. This one is known as a so-called stem cell. Okay, this stem cell has the ability to form other cell types. Okay, I'm just gonna, I don't know, for example, nerve cells. Okay, the skin cells, just to give you a few examples. Okay, how do you spell cells? You get the idea. I don't know, muscle cells, etc. Okay, so you have the different cell types, okay, forming over here. And a cell that is able to do that, a cell that is able to form different cell types, is known as a stem cell. Okay, and that is one important criterion. Okay, so stem cells are able to form other cell types, and the second important criterion is, or second important part of the defined stem cells is that stem cells can divide to form more stem cells. Okay, you're gonna say, well, what's so special about that? Well, you see, once you have a nerve cell, a differentiated nerve cells don't like to divide anymore. It stops there, right? If you want to have new nerve cells, you got to start off with a stem cell again. Yeah? If you want to have more skin cells, you got to start off with a stem cell that makes skin cells. Or if you want to have red blood cells, then you need certain stem cells that are able to form red blood cells. Yeah. So you have very basic stem cells, and as you go on and as the cells differentiate across the different pathways, you still have the more and more specific stem cells as well. So some stem cells that are only able to form blood cells, other stem cells are only able to form nerve cells, and so on. Yeah. That is, these are again the two important characteristics here. Stem cells can continue to divide, and they're able to differentiate along different pathways. Maybe, I don't know. So maybe I should mention this somewhere over here. I'm just going to erase this again here. Okay, stem cells have the ability to divide, or have retained the ability to divide. Stem cells, okay, they have retained the ability to divide, okay, and the second thing is that they're able to differentiate along different pathways. Able to differentiate along different pathways. And by expressing some of their genes and not others, or by expressing some of the DNA and not others, or by switching on some of the DNA but not other parts of the DNA. Okay, so this is something that I've also explained. Yeah, so these are two important points for stem cells here, and this makes stem cells very interesting because this means that we can now maybe use stem cells for the use in therapy, for treating diseases. I mean, stem cells are not only used, or were not only used in making a full human being, but for example, when I hurt myself here, I got a cut here, and I'm bleeding, and then new skin has to form, then stem cells become active that form new skin. Okay, so we adults also have stem cells, but also for research, it would be kind of cool if we had some of those stem cells available, so to treat people and also for research. And there are now two main sources, or two possible sources for stem cells. Okay, so sources for stem cells. And one possibility, they're so-called the embryonic stem cells. Embryonic stem cells. You get them from an embryo. Where do you get an embryo from? Well, what you could do is you can make one by IVF, in vitro fertilization. So basically you take a sperm and an egg, sperm cells and egg cells, and you mix them together under the microscope, and then you are able to create an embryo. These are called the embryonic stem cells, and then you have an embryo under the microscope, and then you can do with it whatever you want to do with it, okay? For research or whatever. Huh? I don't have to add that this is, of course, ethically controversial. Yeah? But there is also a second possibility over here. These are called the so-called adult stem cells. Okay. And these are the ones that I already talked about. They can be found in adult people, in grown-ups, and they are also used for repair. Okay. And it would be kind of cool if we could access them as well, to use them for medicine and for treatment and for therapy. Okay, so these are obviously ethically less problematic. I'm not saying that they're free of ethical problems. Okay, there are still some issues here with the adult stem cells, but generally I think we can mostly agree that it's less problematic than, let's say, the embryonic stem cells, where we have to create a human being or an embryo to be used, whose cells we're going to be using. But this is then again a topic of a completely different video, a follow-up video that I'm going to make. In this video, I simply wanted to talk a little bit about cell differentiation and also what stem cells are. So I'm going to again leave it at that and see you again in the next video, where I continue this topic.